a rare Bellator UFC head-to-head these days. We haven't had it quite often. Obviously, there's way less Bellator events these days than there were back in the day, and also rare that they were both happening in the middle of the day. It felt like, if you looked on social media, it felt like the vast majority of people were watching the UFC. UFC making its debut in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And what was interesting about it on many different fronts was the fact that we've seen obviously a bunch of boxing events over the past year and a half, 2 years in Saudi Arabia. This was the first UFC. We had the one PFL event in that sort of outdoor venue back in February. And this kind of just drove home the point once again. You see when the boxing events are happening over there, maybe they go a little long, they look a little different. The UFC product is such a well-oiled machine that event could have been in Charlotte, it could have been in Denmark, it could have been in Brazil. It always looks the same. And to a degree, that's a credit to them. They're able to take this show and put it anywhere in the world, including a market that they've never been to, and it just kind of goes off without a hitch. And that's pretty much what happened here. It wasn't dragged out. It wasn't anything that looked dramatically different. Would I like a little local flair? Would I like a sprinkle just to show that we're in somewhere different? Sure, but that's not the way they do things. And overall, it was a pretty fun card. It seems like this is going to be the beginning of a relationship that, both sides are very excited about. Afterwards on the ABC broadcast, you had Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh with John Anik talking about the future, and Turki's talking about hiring a director, Zack Snyder, I believe his name is, to make a UFC movie, and they're talking about power slap events coming there and whatnot. And so, that's a little different. That doesn't usually happen on a UFC broadcast. There was a little time to kill because of Robert Whittaker's big win. But it was, I thought, interesting that Turki was very visible throughout the week, seemed very excited to have the UFC in town. And you didn't see that when PFL was in town back in February. I don't even think he was at the PFL event, to be honest. So he has often referenced the UFC being the creme de la creme as far as combat sports is concerned. And not only that, has said that he would like to see something similar to the UFC in boxing. And so it seems like he has great respect for what Dana White has done, who Dana White is. It seemed like he was very happy to be with Dana White in Saudi Arabia. And it seemed like it was a chance for him to get a glimpse of the UFC. He wasn't someone who grew up as a MMA fan who loves MMA. He's very honest about his feelings about boxing compared to MMA. But even having him on the broadcast right after the Whittaker win, you could tell he was just like, holy shit, this is pretty fun. This is good stuff. So just another chapter in the Saudi Arabia / combat sports story, which continues to be one of the biggest stories of the year. But both events were going toe-to-toe, head-to-head at the exact same time, and there was a lot of switching going on. I thought the Bellator broadcast was solid, and I loved the broadcast team that they had in place. Adam Smith, who's a legendary UK boxing play-by-play guy, was the voice of boxing on Sky Sports for many, many years. Had a cup of coffee very recently with PFL when he showed up as the guest analyst for the Savannah Marshall fight just a few weeks back. But on Saturday, he was the lead play-by-play guy for the entire card, the first time he's ever called MMA, alongside the returning Jimmy Smith and Dan Hardy. I loved this broadcast team. I thought they were great. They complemented each other. They helped Adam out. Obviously, he doesn't know the intricacies and the finer details of MMA as he does boxing, but you got a guy in Jimmy Smith who's done play-by-play for WWE. He was on Raw for a little over a year, and obviously Dan Hardy is a complete pro. They all complemented each other very, very well. I thought that they did a great job, and overall the card was solid enough. The UFC card was better, and to me, honestly, there were a few sort of points that I just kind of walked away with after the 5 or 6 hours of head-to-head UFC Bellator. I do think it's high time. Whenever their deal with Max is done, they need to merge the two brands. It's you have PFL on Friday, you have Bellator on Saturday. The brands aren't strong enough to be on their own, and you're saving your champions for this this champion series string of events, which doesn't feel like the old Bellator in a sense that it feels like it's under the PFL umbrella, and even like you're crowning champions that just aren't going to move the needle for you. Put them all together, figure it out, put the best fights on, make the biggest events, and really give this a go. The only reason to keep a separate brand is to get this separate TV deal, and I get it, and I'm not trying to sneeze at that. And there's legitimate money to be made, but I don't think it's big enough to keep them as two separate entities. The PFL brand definitely needs a shot in the arm. It doesn't feel like it has a ton of momentum right now. It doesn't feel like a lot of people are talking about them when the events are going on. In fact, on Friday, I felt like more people were talking about the BKFC card that was going on than the PFL card. Just taking a quick gander at Twitter. So I think they would really be better served. And even if it's a PFL fight night series of sorts, it just feels too confusing to the audience. And so if you want to do these one-off, non-season, non-tournament fights, great. But to keep the brand going for more than a year, finish out this year, you had these plans, amazing. I do think a reassessment is in order, because it feels like you're just splitting up. When the UFC did it with WEC, they already had the dominant brand, and the WEC was that complementary brand, which was featuring weight classes that didn't exist in the UFC, 135, 145. And I know they had 55 and 70 and 85 and 205 as well, but they slowly but surely got rid of those. To me, WEC, especially towards the end, was all about 35 and 45. Bellator doesn't really have anything that PFL has. I know you could say, oh, okay, they don't have 185 Johnny Eblin, 135, great. It's just, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like they have the lineup and the roster on both fronts to keep them going separately. But anyway, obviously the biggest story was Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker gets the win over Ikram Aliskerov. A very impressive win. Another win for the old guard this year, somewhat reminiscent of Dustin Poirier's win over Benoit Saint Denis back in March, although this one completely different in the sense that Ikram wasn't a huge favorite going into that one, or a favorite at all. I think Robert was a slight favorite going into it, and Ikram's taking this fight on a little over a week's notice, and he wasn't kind of the rising, super prospect that BSD is and was going into that fight. But good to see one of the old dogs and the good guys in the game get a W, and what a W it was. That overhand right, and then he's rocking him, and then he hits him with the cleanest freaking uppercut that you will ever see. Just an absolute beaut of an uppercut. And then he freaking explodes. Absolutely explodes. Over the moon. There was a risk involved here. You're not fighting Khamzat Chimaev. You're not fighting a top contender. You're not fighting a household name. Casual fan may think that you should win this fight. Hardcore fan is saying, well, Ikram, watch out for him. And Bobby Knuckles just reminds everyone who he is, reminds everyone that he's still a player at 185 pounds, and then says he'd be down to be the backup fighter in 2 months in Perth, and that he owes something to Perth. Of course, he's had some bad luck when it comes to fighting in Australia. To me, the fight to make on that Perth card is Robert Whittaker versus Sean Strickland. Robert Whittaker has as much of a say to be the number one contender at 185 as Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland beat Izzy, then he lost to DDP, and then he beat Paulo Costa. Robert Whittaker beat Paulo Costa after the DDP loss, and then just beat Ikram Aliskerov and was in line to fight Khamzat, and I personally think he was going to beat Khamzat. I don't think you can look at that fight and say, like, look, just by that performance, he was going to beat Khamzat, but I think Whittaker is the better, more well-rounded fighter at this point, especially considering what we've seen from Khamzat as of late, and considering how Robert does going into championship rounds, and Khamzat's maybe inability to keep the gas tank full as the fight goes on. In any event, I don't understand why Strickland should be the guy to wait, and Whittaker, Strickland needs a win over a Whittaker, and Whittaker needs a win over a Strickland. It's right there. It's the perfect fight. It's the perfect fight that should be made as the co-main event to Izzy and DDP. And what's fun about it as well is that they both have ties to both guys. Strickland has ties to to Izzy, of course. He has ties to DDP, and the same with Whittaker. It's like too perfect. The only potential thing is that it's in less than 2 months, and that's a little damn soon. But Whittaker is the one who just fought, 3 weeks after Strickland. He says he's ready to go. Strickland could be a little bit beat up because his fight went, 5 rounds. But that to me is the fight to make, if you ask me. It's right there. And I really just don't think that Strickland should be able to wait after what Whittaker just did. So that was a big performance as far as the main event is concerned. Alexander Volkov and Sergey Pavlovich was a bit of a surprise one. I think, Volkov was a slight underdog going into the fight, looked great. And I'm not just talking about his hair, which he was getting coiffed in between rounds, which was an amazing look. Afterwards, he tried to show love to Pavlovich, and Pavlovich wanted none of it. A little Russia-on-Russia crime there. He pushed him, and credit to Volkov for not getting too upset about all of that, but it just seems like there's a lot of bad blood there. Kelvin Gastelum missed weight horribly, and a 170-pound fight had to be changed to a 185-pound fight. Credit to D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez, for taking the fight. Gastelum wins. D-Rod gets a new deal. It gets 30% of the purse. Gets a raise, this, that, and the other. But we've been through this. I mean, Kelvin Gastelum has been in the UFC now for over a decade, and we've been through this so many times before. And there have been times where Dana White has said, this guy cannot go back to this old weight class. And for some reason, like, I know he's talked about it a little bit with Kelvin, but never really truly made it an ultimatum. It has to be one now. It has to be one now. Either that, or you can't fight in the organization. You can't sign up to fight him, and then he misses weight that bad, and now it becomes an 85 fight, and then he wins. And I'm sure the new contract and the 30% and all that, I'm sure it helps. But just fight at 85, man. Especially when you're making YouTube videos about food and weight misses and stuff like that. Like, you can't do this. You just can't. And I don't know why you want to put yourself through that, why anyone would sign up for that, or why the UFC would be okay with that. Just stay at 85 and rid yourself of this type of stress. Shara Magomedov, Shara Bullet, with another nice win, this time over the late replacement, Antonio Tricoli. What a look this guy has. What a vibe he has. Dana White said afterwards that they'll keep him overseas. I don't know if that is because of some sort of like visa thing or because of some sort of popularity thing. He wasn't very clear about that, and there were no follow-up questions asked, but he's 13-0, and I would suspect if they're going to keep him over there, then we'll see him again in Abu Dhabi. Bo Nickal said he would fight him. I would love to see it. I don't know if they'll do that. And then it seemed like Magomedov was kind of down based on what I saw on Twitter. Anyway, that would be great. What a look this guy has. I mean, I'm not just talking about the eye, the whole pirate look that he comes out with. The guy is a very interesting character. Volkan Ozdemir turns back the clock and beats Johnny Walker in the first round. No time, a little old school no time. And that was good for him. Exactly the kind of win that he needs. And a lot of questions regarding Johnny Walker's future now with a couple of bad losses in a row. Just a couple of more notable wins on the card. Nasrat Haqparast beat Jared Gordon via split decision. It wasn't quite Jared Gordon versus Paddy Pimblett, but a close one, and one that I certainly thought would win by the end of the night. I thought it would win the fight of the night, but they didn't. They just gave out a bunch of performance bonuses, but a really nice fight, a hard-fought fight, an entertaining fight between two veterans, Jared Gordon and Nasrat Haqparast. Let me bring in the guys here. We'll talk a little bit about Robert Whittaker. What a win! What a performance! What did you guys think? I'll start with you, Rick. What did you think of his performance, and what did you think about all the talk afterwards about him being a backup, Sean Strickland waiting? What do you do with Bobby Knuckles after a win like that?
Yeah, fantastic performance by Robert Whittaker in a circumstance where, he's facing an up-and-comer and somebody who typically, this is a position where the young lion eats the old lion, and he turned back the clock. So kudos to him. Just, did exactly what he needed to do. I think he has to fight Sean Strickland. That is the fight that needs to be made. The path is very clear. He has losses to Israel Adesanya, 2 of them. He has a loss to Dricus du Plessis. Now, granted, I think, most of us can acknowledge that, that probably wasn't the best performance out of him in the loss to Dricus, and one that potentially we wouldn't mind seeing run back. But I don't think it will be next. I think the Sean Strickland fight is right there. Robert Whittaker versus Sean Strickland is the fight to make.
But it doesn't it seem like Strickland doesn't want it?
Too bad.
Yeah.
It's the fight. Look, Strickland is in a position where he's, wanting a title shot too. Both of them want the title shot. It's guys that they have losses against. Well, Strickland is a win over Adesanya, but in DDP, it's a guy that Strickland has a loss against. Fight for it, and winner gets a title shot. Feels very easy. Feels very simple, and right there for them.
What do you think, GC?
I mean, I was absolutely blown away. It was a perfect performance. I was shocked. That was not the outcome that I was expecting.
What were you expecting?
Not a first round knockout. I mean, that was his first knockout since 2017 or something like that. Like it has been a minute since we've seen him put someone out, and for him to come in there and just, I mean, it was just an obliteration, and then that to land that uppercut, it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I thought he was going to win, but I was sort of banking on the experience, him being able to go 5 rounds. I was not expecting him to put him out in the very first round. I mean, I was elated. I was watching with friends that aren't really like diehard UFC fans, and like I was going crazy, and they were just kind of like, "Oh yeah, nice." Like it was a bad crew to be with. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was amazing. When it comes to Strickland, that is a fight that I really want to see. I mean, they're both in prime position for it to essentially be a title contender eliminator fight. But from the side of Sean Strickland, you guys saying that like he probably doesn't want it, in his mind, he thinks that he should have won that fight against DDP, and then he took it to Adesanya for 5 rounds, and now they're fighting for the belt. I feel like from his point of view, he's like, well, why don't I just wait to see what happens in less than 2 months' time in Perth and see who wins that? And if it's Adesanya, then I have claim to a rematch. And if it's DDP, he probably feels like he has a claim to a rematch there as well.
It's a really interesting puzzle because let's just say he says, nah, I don't want to be on this card because I just fought and because I want to wait. If Izzy wins, right? If Izzy wins the belt, I don't think there's a strong case for Izzy Robert again, right? But I think there's a strong case for Izzy Strickland. If DDP wins, I think there's probably a stronger case for Strickland DDP than Whittaker DDP only because DDP stopped Whittaker. And so basically what I'm trying to say is if I'm Robert Whittaker, I'm probably trying to push for the Strickland fight because if it's a 2-horse race, who could get the title shot first? I feel like both results favor Strickland more than they favor Whittaker. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean, but I think
I also think Whittaker, sorry to interrupt, but I think Whittaker has a good chance against Strickland. I don't know what the odds would be. You know what I mean? But if that Whittaker shows up, that's an incredible Whittaker. And yes, to your point, GC, first stoppage since Jacare Souza in 2017. So a little old school Whittaker.
Yeah, first round against this up and coming guy that a lot of people believed that he was going to be Robert Whittaker. I mean, he was a slight favorite all week, but I'm pretty sure by fight time it was 115, 105, or 110 each way. Like there were a lot of people that believed that Ikram Askarov was going to get it done against Robert Whittaker. So to knock him out in the first round was incredible. I mean, you got the picture beforehand of him sitting in the bus with like the perfect lighting, and then the walkout where it's coming from behind him. It was just a great night overall for Whittaker. And then he does the point of the camera thing.
Yeah.
The
who me?
It was great.
I felt like that was a shout out to us. Who me?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's definitely a shout out.
Who me? Yeah. Oh, there it is. There it is. Let's see it again. Who me? Yeah. Who me?
I mean, I think that was it. He was thinking of you. He said, "Let me point at the camera."
My guy.
This is going to go perfectly.
The last fight between Whittaker and Adesanya was close.
Yeah.
And I think they're at such different phases in their career from when they were in the first fight or in the second fight that I could be convinced of a trilogy between those two.
Fair.
I don't mind that fight at all. So I look, it's to your point, I think Strickland is ahead in the race, right? He has the win over Adesanya and a really close fight against Strickus. I think it's certainly more viable. He's the more viable challenger. But Robert Whittaker has been around so long and done so much and continues to kind of be at a level where people can believe that he is capable of competing with these champions that I don't think it's a hard sell if you can beat Sean Strickland. So I think it's right there. It's right there for them.
Do you think there's
Whittaker,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say Whittaker's got the 2 losses to Adesanya. Strickland has the win over Adesanya, and then fighting this weekend, Alex Pereira. Say he gets it done. Izzy gets the belt back.
Oh yeah.
Kerr makes one last trip down the middleweight to try to become double champ.
Oh geez.
I mean, there's Robert Whittaker to get the title without anything else feels very difficult.
Do you think there's any chance that the UFC says, all right, this is what we're going to do? It's Izzy DDP in August. Strickland, you'll be the backup. We want to do Whittaker, Khamzat in Abu Dhabi. Are you signing up for that if you're Robert Whittaker?
He doesn't have many options, right?
I
He
say
has
fuck
to-
no. Fuck no. I was there. I was ready to go. You didn't show up. No way.
But then
I don't-
yes, but what is your next step? What is your alternative? What are you waiting for in that scenario? Because now Strickland has to resolve. He's the backup. As we know, being a backup guarantees your title shot, right? Wink, wink.
Yeah.
He's the backup. He gets the next opportunity. Then what? What happens for Whittaker in the meantime? Or what happens to Whittaker next? Like, I don't know if you can turn it down without having something else as an alternative. Like, what is your alternative there if you're Robert Whittaker?
I wonder if the UFC is running to give Strickland a title shot or a backup to get a title shot, given how, critical he has been about the business.
Yes, no, but you suggested that scenario, right? I'm saying from the Robert Whittaker end of it, you kind of have to fight Khamzat. What else do you do?
Yeah.
What is your?
Do you think
what-
there's a chance
you
they
say
try to
no
run
and
that
then what?
back?
You say no, and then what do you do? What is your move if you're Robert Whittaker?
All I'm wondering at the moment is because I saw Hamza tweet about him. Do you think they try to run that back? Do you think they try to?
I think
book
it's
that for-
possible.
Yeah, I feel like because who else are you going to match up Khamzat with? I feel like they try to run it back.
Paulo and Khamzat.
Oh
feels better to me.
good call. Yeah.
I feel like that's the one to make for Abu Dhabi.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that's a good call.
All we need to get Khamzat is a middleweight fight. It does not need to be Robert Whittaker. We need him to fight
We
a
just need
middleweight
to get
fight.
Khamzat fight, period.
Yeah,
He just needs to get
Touche.
healthy enough to get into the octagon.
touche. We need a Khamzat fight, but fight a real middleweight. Paulo Costa is a middleweight. That's all you need. Robert Whittaker versus Strickland. Paulo Costa versus Khamzat Chimaev. They all make sense.
Winner of Whittaker Strickland gets the winner of DDP Izzy.
Yeah.
Done. Sorted.
By the way, I wouldn't even hate a Paulo Costa versus Jack Hermanson type of fight. Why does he get to fight like the top three guys? He's currently ranked 11th at middleweight.
I think he would want it.
No, I know he would want it, but it's like, I don't know. I think he needs to build himself back up now. Also, they still haven't been able to explain to us, can he fight in the States or not? How could you
Khamzat
put?
you're talking about?
Yeah. How could you put someone in a title eliminator if they could then become a champion?
Because you're going to go to Saudi Arabia. You're going to go to Abu Dhabi.
He's just going to be the Middle Eastern
you're just
champion,
the Middle Eastern champ.
or the I don't know. Can he fight in Europe? He's the D'Lo Brown of the UFC.
Yes.
Come
Yes.
on, what is going on here? This is crazy.
He has to be able to fight in Europe. Yeah.
I would
Training
imagine.
at All Stars.
Who knows? We don't know. This is the problem.
But how many European title fights are they doing? One max a year?
No, but between
maybe
Europe,
2 if we get Spain.
Yeah, they ain't doing that. That's going to be a great title fight in Utah later this year. How lucky is Utah getting PFL on Friday and then Taporia
Big.
and Max? Yeah.
But do those not make the most sense? Right. That's those specific fights are made. They're done. It's easy. If Strickland doesn't want it, I would understand, right? I would get that from Strickland's perspective. But he's also a guy who kind of takes fights and stays busy.
Yeah.
I just
Fight Rob
wondered though because
Whittaker.
he got on the mic right after the Paulo fight and was like, "All right, I did a solid. Now it's my turn for the title shot." I'm wondering if he's willing to take another fight that isn't for the title.
I think if they pay him enough, he'll take it.
Yeah, and I think he's tweeted that as well. It would just be so great to have those four guys at the top of the bill
Love it.
in Australia. I love when it's like a mini tournament like that. What did you guys think of the atmosphere over there? Did it feel like the boxing events over there? It was in the same arena, the Kingdom Arena, so the indoor one where Francis happened against AJ and Tyson Usyk. Still feels a little quiet, but I think towards the end it got a little louder. There were even some boos, which isn't common, but it doesn't quite feel like a American or European crowd. Would you say?
Yeah, I think that's
I mean,
accurate.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't like UFC Austin or like a UFC Paris crowd. I don't love how far they sprawl out the floor seats.
Yeah.
Like I feel like this is a sport that you need to start stacking them up high as quickly as possible so people have better view and are closer to the octagon.
Yeah, it's just such a big arena. It's a soccer stadium. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
so everything is so spread out. So they don't really have a ton of options there. So like I said, Volkov, Pavlovich, Gastelum, D-Rod, Shara Bullet. Anything stick out for you guys on Saturday afternoon?
Pavlovich not being able to close the range, and then he was essentially just couldn't do anything against Volkov. I mean, that was just like a clean sweep. He was beating him down. It's just crazy how quickly we went from before that Aspinall fight in early November. So that's 7 months ago. This guy was like the killer at heavyweight. And now we've seen him lose 2 in a row, one by vicious knockout and one by him just getting worked for 15 minutes. It's just crazy how fast the sport can move. I mean, we were talking about this guy being a legit heavyweight title contender, and now I don't know how he gets back into that picture.
Yeah. Hawk Prost and Gordon was a sick fight. And Uzdemir's knockout will definitely stick with me.
You signing
Oh,
up for
yeah, the no-time knockout.
That was great. Old school. You guys signing up for Shara Bullet against Bo Nickel?
Hell no. Not
Yeah.
even.
Oh, what?
Wait,
Not
why?
even 1 ounce of me wants to see Bo Nickel double leg him in 30 seconds and kill him.
Oh, you're saying build him up, build him up.
What? Oh, yeah, you're a pirate guy. God, you're like a diehard.
So you want to build
I'm
him
not
up?
a diehard, but I just don't want to see like what.
I mean, you're
what
tweeting about the pirate code.
Fair play. Do we need like that? We know exactly how that fight's gonna go. There is no intrigue to that fight. I have zero interest in that. Like Bo Nickel double legs him in 30 seconds and dumps him, and then that's over. Like what? Why do I need to see that? I already know. They do it in the gym. Hey, go Shara Bullet and Bo Nickel link up in a gym, record it, show us the 30 seconds that'll play out. I don't need to see that in the UFC. No interest.
Well, what gym are they going to link up in? Because Dana says
Bo flies over. Bo
not
flies
flying
over.
to States.
Bo flies over there.
I couldn't
By
tell.
the way, is it
Is it because of the eye, or is it
it's because of the eye, right? Like
I don't
Michael
know.
Bisping had this whole thing how he had to hide his eye from the commissions for so long. The dude has one eye. I don't think he will get licensed.
If that's
right?
the case, it's a weird thing to
he's another one we're gonna keep in a certain.
No, I know, but
world, and
if that's the case, I don't know if you should be saying that. If you're an American promoter, being like, yeah, we're going to keep him over here so the doctors in America don't.
Well, they didn't say
exclude-
that. They didn't.
No, I know,
that
but
part of it.
I didn't know what it was about.
That's what I'm assuming because
His answer was just like, yeah, we're going to keep him over here. Yeah, I think that's. But I didn't know if that was. I don't know because
there could be many reasons, but my
There's so much
amateur
mystery.
detective guess is like Michael Bisping has very clearly outlined how difficult it was for him to skirt the issue and pretend that he could see everything, and this guy has one eye. Not.
Yeah, I'm not going to
trying
lie.
to hide.
I saw a bunch of people tweeting about that, and I thought they were just like joking. That's the reason why he couldn't come to the States.
An American commissioner would be able to answer this question very easily. Like, would you license him?
Get Andy Foster on the phone.
Yeah. Hey, Andy,
Line
would
one.
you license him?
What was
no,
the?
what, you want to see this fight? GC, you want to see?
I'm down for it, dude. I'm down for it. These are 2 young stars at middleweight. Let's put them up against each other.
He can't stop
if
a
Bo Nickel makes it
nosebleed.
look easy, the aura just keeps growing even more.
Bro, give me Bo Nickel, Hamzat in Abu Dhabi.
Yes,
tomorrow.
this is more what I want to
Give
see.
me that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Enough. I'm ready. I'm ready. I don't know if this is crazy, but I'm ready to see it.
But I will say this: Bo Nickel having a good week. Brilliant. PR management by Bo Nickel. I was in the mountains. I was going to take that Robert Whittaker fight, but I was in the mountains. They couldn't reach me. By the time I got back, it was already booked. Shara Bullet, I'm calling you out. He's nailing these call outs that will never materialize into anything. He's nailing the I'll fight anybody thing without actually having to fight anybody. So I'm enjoying what Bo Nickel is doing here.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
It's perfect. What was the play on Saturday? Were you guys going back and forth? Were you only watching one?
Simultaneous, for sure.
I was, I got limited resources here. This isn't my own house. I was pulling up Bellator on the phone, little just lap action,
Mm-hmm.
And how confused were your friends who knew nothing about UFC when you tried to explain to them about the Bellator Champion Series?
Yeah, so they were like, "Wait, what are you watching there? Like, is that more fights?" I'm just like, "Yeah." They're just like, "Is that boxing or something?" I'm like, "No. This is still MMA. It's just another league that isn't the UFC." I was actually watching the news with my mom the other night on CNN, and obviously CNN and and HBO Max, like they are in cahoots together,
Just
and
Max,
so they
bro. It's just
played.
Max. You can't call it HBO Max.
Good call, my bad. I sound like an idiot over here. So they played a Bellator promo, and like, of
Wow.
course, big pop from me in the living room. I was like, "Oh yeah, baby, here we go." My mom was like, "What's that?" And I had to go down this whole rabbit hole explaining, it's still MMA, it's not UFC. So yeah, that's the second time
It's
this
not
week I
quite
had to do that.
Bellator. It's
It's not Bellator. It's actually PFL, but
yeah.
they call it Bellator. Oh, well, what's PFL? Yeah,
It's
it's
the
a whole
Champions
rabbit
League.
hole.
This is the crazy thing now. You have a Jason Jackson who, had a nice little run there, beats Amasov, beats Ray Cooper on the champ versus champ. And then he loses to a guy who every fight of his in Bellator were buried on the prelims, who they've done nothing to promote. Like, I covered this sport for a living. I know barely anything about Ramazan Kuramagomedov. And now he's your welterweight champion? Like, what? I don't understand. I don't understand how this is a proper business model. The whole point of fight sports is to give people characters and storylines and feuds and fights that they're craving for. It's not just about putting like, okay, who's the next best guy? Okay, let's take this guy who's fought twice for us on the early prelims and put him in a title fight. And now he's your champion. Now what are you going to do about that? What kind of tickets are you going to sell there? Do you know what I mean?
To your point, the contender fight for Patchy Mix was also on the prelims of this card.
Doesn't make sense. You got to build contenders.
The brands being separate, in addition to the inability to combine them and create the fights that people want to see, you're actually hampering both, right? The indirect effect, or direct, depending on which perspective you're looking at it from, is you're limiting what the potential for the tournament is by top talent not being in your tournament that you value. And on the Bellator side, you're limiting the contenders for the champions. So in addition to not having the combined effect of having like one roster where you can make any fight you want, you're actually hurting both of the brands independently. Like, you're not allowing contenders that could have been there for championship fights or people who could have been in the tournament. It's just a mess. It doesn't make sense. It's outlived its usefulness.
It's frustrating to watch because I think you combine the two, you've got a nice little thing going. A nice little number two, but now it leads to confusion. This guy, Paul Hughes, signs with PFL. He's fighting on Bellator. Again, maybe we're the ones who get hung up over these things, but and forget about the idea of going head to head. You went head to head with UFC in Saudi Arabia on ABC. Why?
I mean, that was a local fight event, though. No.
I mean, if I'm Max, I'm like, why isn't this happening on Friday afternoon?
That's a different
or
conversation.
Sunday afternoon.
But to me, I view all these like fights as local ticket selling events. It's regional MMA. All due respect, but like they're selling tickets. The broadcast is not the thing.
What'd you guys think of Paul's debut?
Awesome.
First round, I mean, that was
tested.
Got a little dicey there.
Yeah, got tested.
Had to deal with adversity.
Yeah.
Got a finish. Second round. Was good on the mic afterward.
Yeah, it was great. Stuff with Conor was great.
Oh, yeah. It was fantastic. I mean, essentially gave him like a nice little viral moment. Nice moment between the two Irishmen. Yeah. On to the next one.
The stuff with Conor was great. The finish was great. It was a little... It was a moment where you're like, oh, yeah, that was amazing. And look how aggressive he was. And he can't use that weapon in PFL.
Yeah.
He can't use elbows. If this was a PFL fight, he could not have finished the fight like that.
I don't care that much about the elbows, no elbows thing.
It's just...
I know, I get it. We're limiting tools for seemingly no reason. But like, I don't care. He'll punch him instead. Everything will be fine. Won't be
maybe not the same. Look at Kayla Harrison when she could use elbows.
Yeah, she's the same. You just punch instead of elbow. It's the same thing.
All right, fine. I thought he was going to call out someone. I thought maybe
I forgot that till you said that earlier, but he did promise something.
He gave me a whole thing. This is my first question for him. I was very upset. I told Pizzi I was promised a call out. Where's my call out?
Legit. I didn't remember, but now that you reminded me, I'm like, I feel like I got robbed a little bit.
Who'd you want? Who was the dream call out?
I thought maybe he'd call out Nurmagomedov. The 155 champ. Usman.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't anticipate Conor being there. Then the
Big
whole
pop
thing
for that.
became
Big
about
pop for that
Mitch
suggestion, by the way.
Hunter.
You guys are like,
we need a little bit more time, maybe. I feel like we,
what?
get
It's
a
a little
couple more
early.
I'm
fights
going to
under
do it
the
for
belt.
Ireland. I'm going to be the one to beat it Nurmagomedov. I don't know. I thought.
Yeah, we can do that. Maybe down the line,
Also, he
year,
just
year
got
and a half,
booked.
18 months.
I'm just saying, just give me the champ. Put yourself in that conversation. By the way, why did they show Conor in the square, McGregor, during the main event when he has no connection to either guy?
Because it's the most significant thing happening
Yes.
that day, and they should show him
Yes.
before he even arrives at the arena. They should have the Conor cam on him
It
at
was
the hotel coming to the arena,
1,000%.
at the house,
1,000%. I mean, it's just like BKFC. I mean, he showed up at BKFC one night and then he ends up in the ring with the belt over his shoulder doing a face-to-face with Mike Perry. Like, McGregor comes, they're going to make use of it.
There was something very odd about the fact that there's a UFC event going on, and
Conor's at
there's the
Bellator.
face of the UFC at the Bellator event in Dublin. Arlene Blencow beats his teammate.
Yes.
They interview him first,
Yeah.
which I'm not blaming Dan Hardy for that. That's a
No,
production
that's
call. Like they're
production.
telling him to do. And it was actually kind of cool to see Hardy and him in the cage together last time they were
Yeah.
there was
Yep.
back in 2014. Not here to take part, here to take over. But if I'm Blencow, I'm like, well, that's kind of a bummer. But she probably gets it. She seems like a nice enough person. Get an update
Yeah,
on the
I get
injury. And then he's shown on the thing during it felt like some sort of weird alternate universe. Swapping of roles.
Michael Chandler's tweet on it as well, saying like, you finally show up to 3 Arena where the press conference was going to be nice slippers.
Yeah.
I like Chandler's take on that. It did. I have to admit, I felt similarly. I felt it felt a little bit bizarro. But at the same time, like, look, they're in Dublin. Like he's gonna do that. Like it's just a coincidence.
If you're running a show, are
Yeah.
you showing him that much?
more?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. As much as possible.
I would have reversed it where the big box is him and the fight is the small man in the
geez.
corner.
The best part was that he's
Get
just
him on the
rocking a
commentary.
tank and a
Yeah.
and a Forged Irish Stout hat.
And
I
slippers.
think he
And slippers.
I think he tweeted something like biceps and cash or something like that, and it was just pictures of him at the fight. Just ridiculous.
And so he did a bunch of interviews. He spoke to Dan Hardy. He spoke to Andy Stevenson and Bellator in the back. And earlier in the week, I think it was on Friday, he did finally announce that the injury was a broken toe. He shared photos, got into a little thing with Chael Sonnen, who earlier in the week said that he was out due to other reasons, other personal reasons. And I don't know if that ends up not being true. There's a part of me that's kind of blown away by all of it. That's okay to talk about that sort of thing on the Worldwide Leader when I was being censored the way I was about like actual facts and reporting, and that's just okay. And maybe they know something that we all don't. And maybe Chael talking about this led to Conor finally revealing what the injury is so that we can now close the book officially on this entire saga because we now know every single part of the story. But now you understand why he couldn't show up to the presser. It happened the day before. He couldn't walk. He was in pain. And, the presser was going to happen 24 hours later. And, it was shitty timing. Had the presser not been booked on that Monday, we probably would have never known up until the point that he, pulled out of the fight. And then, of course, predictably, just a tough set of circumstances because you knew everyone was going to crap all over him. You knew everyone was going to get their shots in, especially with Alex Pereira and the injuries that he suffered recently and the fact that he's the one replacing him. But as he said on Saturday, he just doesn't want to fight anymore when he's hurt. He wants to try to be as healthy as possible. He said it was a lapse in judgment. He said he wants to fight in August or September, as I reported when all of this went down. Dana White seems less interested in committing to those months as of now. He says he's not even thinking about it until he's 100%. And so I don't know. I don't know who's going to win out here. And I don't know if that's his way of pushing him to November, December range. But it feels like there's going to be some questions for the time being as to when he's going to come back. I don't know. Maybe they announce it this weekend. I would be surprised. I've not heard anything like that. But it's gonna get to be squeaky bump time very soon, I think, for Michael Chandler. He's gonna have to make a decision here.
I wouldn't rush to announce it if I were the UFC, I certainly understand like the sentiment of like you want to get people back on thinking Conor McGregor is coming back as soon as you can. But at the same time, like I think belief in that date at this point would be very low. So I think you kind of have to just ride it out and wait till you really can feel solid about it.
If you weren't going to announce it on the day that you announced the
Yeah,
switch, I don't
exactly.
think you need to rush.
Don't rush. Don't rush.
But as I had heard from the beginning of all of this, they really wanted August or September. The problem is August is Perth, and September is the Sphere, and they don't want it on the Sphere because they have other plans for the Sphere. Conor's the only one on the roster right now who you could really potentially force the UFC to create a new date for.
Yep.
But they don't like doing that. They don't like setting that precedent. And they have a method to the madness. I do think an August 31st date would be 2 weeks after Perth and 2 weeks before the Sphere. It would be 3 pay-per-views in the span of a month, essentially, but three pretty huge pay-per-views. You know?
Yeah, that would be an incredible stretch if they were able to somehow pull that off.
Because everyone's going to want to buy the Sphere card just for the visuals and the card they're putting together.
Yeah, I mean the rumored fights for that, you're going to want to buy that.
Izzy DDP's a big, and Conor, like I don't know, when you put pay-per-views too close to each other, they take a hit. But those are 3 blockbuster ones, you know? But maybe they just don't want to go to market with this and promote it and sell it. Maybe they just want to commit to the date once he is 1,000%. And if those pictures are recent, with the toe looking all blue and stuff like that, then you know.
So if they don't say they don't add a date, I mean, you're not going to do the October card, then November or December is realistic, is on the table.
I'm saying November, and that's if they like create a date, because it seems like they promised November to Jones, and I don't think they're putting both of them.
Okay.
Yeah, but who knows? By that time, maybe that's not the fight, and you know what I mean. Like the that far in the future is kind of a hazy picture. You can figure out how to shuffle those pieces when the time comes.
Just do a McGregor and Jones card, sell 3 million pay-per-views.
Oh wow,
and
yeah.
Call it a day.
No chance. If you're MSG, what do you prefer, McGregor Chandler or Jones Stipe?
McGregor Chandler auto.
Yeah, of course. Come on.
If you're anybody in any scenario and the options are Conor McGregor, the answer is always Conor McGregor to every question.
Even if there's some is he going to show up? Is he going to get hurt?
Conor McGregor, yep.
Yeah, I mean the amount of people that I just like have had hit me up about watching the McGregor fight, and I've had to like break the news to them. I'm like, he's not fighting anymore.
Oh, they're still asking you?
As recently as last week, I had a kid be like, "Yo, you want to watch the McGregor fight together?" And I was just like,
"Bad news, bud.
He's not fighting. Hate to break it to you."
I liked Conor doing the math for everybody who's saying Michael Chandler should take another fight, and he's like, "Yeah, it would take 10 fights. Sorry."
Everyone keeps saying 2 or 3 fights. He'd have it under his belt. Well, guess what? It'd take 10 to get the check that he's getting cut for this one. So deal with it.
The answer is always Conor. It's always
no. I definitely wait, but there's got to be some point where he's going to say, okay, like I think end of this year. I think end of 2024 should be the deadline. So like December 31st.
If he doesn't have it booked.
If he doesn't have it booked.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, in a perfect world, the fight happens by the end of this year. But I'm saying if he doesn't have anything on the books, January, February, March, that's pretty much as far as they will go by the end of December. Then he might have to make a tough call. Any chance they put him on a power slap just to give him a few quid in the pocket? I mean, now we got Paige.
Isn't he going to do like a meet and greet or something? I saw a graphic with.
Yeah, he's going to be there.
Supposedly going to be there, but I don't know if that announcement there is going to be Chandler's participating.
Give him a power slap super fight in the meantime.
Maybe power slap will be used as the place where if like someone's in limbo, you let them do power slap for a few bucks, and that holds them over.
I like that.
What a turn of events for Paige Van Zandt, huh? Since leaving the UFC,
just checking every box.
Bare knuckle, AEW, Misfits, Power Slap, OnlyFans.
Them all. Yeah,
incredible.
Check.
We were talking about
some good sparring footage of her smacking the bag.
Yeah.
She looks ready to go.
Sparring, but nobody's sparring back. Just slapping. We were talking about this like she did Dancing with the Stars. She should just knock off like every reality competition show, go do Survivor, go do the challenge, go do this. Like just knock off everything that's ever been broadcast if you're Paige Van Zandt, and there might be a winning formula there.
Oh, the challenge. Yeah,
Let's get her to coach Tough.
Tough.
Nah, we're beyond that.
Yeah, that's too small. That's small potatoes.
Sorry,
Wow,
Alex.
what?
Sorry,
No love?
Kaylee.
I'll be seated tomorrow at 10 p.m.
Have you watched a second of it?
No.
Like literally 1 millisecond.
I've seen something on social media. So yeah, I've seen 1 millisecond, but are you talking about on live television? Absolutely not. The green hoodies look nice though. The green and black hoodies.
I haven't even pressed play on a social media clip. I've not seen
Would
1
not
second.
mind one of those green and black jerseys. Those things are stylish.
Who's green and black? Is it Grasso?
I could.
Maybe.
Nobody knows. As Joe Sono
no one will ever know.
Nobody knows.
Any other season where the coaches didn't fight?
Conor and Faber.
Okay.
Wait, what are you trying
to?
The
second one is Conor
and Chandler.
Chandler.
Yeah, wow,
seeing a pattern here.
No, but Conor and Faber was never. They were never built to fight. It was just like
saying.
they took two. Tough two. Rich Franklin and Matt Hughes back in the day didn't fight. Tough three were just kind of random people. There was no like official head coach.
Jose Young says Tito and Chuck didn't fight a third time because Tito,
but I'm saying like going into the season,
the
season, probably the most famous one is Conor and Faber back in the day. So I don't put Chandler and Conor in the same bucket because they're being billed as such. Are you trying to say that Grasso and Shevchenko aren't going to fight, Frank, or is this a joke about the Conor fight?
It was more a joke about the Conor fight.
All right. Did you watch BKFC on Friday, Frank?
I didn't. I was a little preoccupied on Friday.
Oh.
Oilers, Panthers. You had been watching Game 6. You must be hyped for Game 7 tonight, huh?
Game 7 tonight is going to be awesome.
That does not sound like someone who's hyped at all.
Sounded very.
There's only one game for me,
bro.
It's Game 7 tonight.
This is like the most magical words in sports, Frank. This is everything you've wanted.
I mean, a 3-0 comeback. It doesn't get any better than this.
3-0, first Canadian team to potentially win since 1993. The 5 Florida fans will be in shambles. The entire country of Canada will be going crazy, except for maybe Flames fans, but everyone else will be relatively happy for them. I certainly will be. What a time. What a time in sports. All this fighting going on. Stanley Cup playoffs going into Game 7. Copa America craziness.
USA, baby.
Euro craziness. USA beating Bolivia yesterday.
Oh, huge. That Christian Eriksen, just absolute screamer in the second minute.
Eriksen or Pulisic?
Oh, yeah.
Fuck. Gosh. What are you talking? Why is Denmark playing today? Or are you playing tomorrow? Or something? Canada going toe-to-toe with Argentina. A valiant effort. I mean, you talk about a David versus Goliath. Went out there, fought like hell, fought their hearts out. The whole freaking country very proud of them.
How are we feeling about our boys in blue, our boys in white?
England?
Yeah.
Not great. Not a great showing. Not a great showing against Denmark. But I think they turn it around. The problem is Gareth Southgate, man. The guy's getting killed. He is getting absolutely killed.
Yeah, he gets no love.
He's good. By the way, can I just say something about the Mercedes-Benz Stadium? I mean, a piss-poor effort with that field. What was that? I mean, it was awful. What do you have to say?
The size of it?
No. They took the turf out. They put in grass. It was all bumpy.
Yeah.
Everyone was complaining.
Yeah. People just like to complain.
They said the locker rooms were like half a mile from the entrance. It was just, it's like...
Yeah, you got to get a warm-up in. No need to do it on the field. You do it back in the tunnels.
Who are you trying to impress is what I want to know, you know?
Brilliant stadium. Every time I've been, it's been a euphoric experience. Hopefully going to add a visit on Thursday for Old Team USA. It's going to be great.
You're planning on going?
Yeah.
You're going to be there with the, I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win.
I'll be screaming at the top of my lungs. Tough matchup against Panama, though.
Oh, yeah. Nah, they should be fine. They should be fine. No? Is Panama considered a powerhouse?
I wouldn't call them a powerhouse, but they got some dog in them. I'm really worried about the Uruguay game.
Oh, they're
That could
good.
get ugly.
I have a
They're
friend
really good.
who used to work in MMA media, Michael Allardyce. He now works for USMNT. Actually, both. Sorry, WNT and MNT, the men's and women's organizations. And in the works, as of right now, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, when the women's national team comes to these neck of the woods in July, you know how they have like the players come out with the kids before,
Yeah.
for the anthem and all that, the mascots? You've seen this?
Yes, I'm aware of what you're talking about.
My daughter's gonna walk out with them.
Yes, let's
Is one of the
go. That's what I was
mascots.
hoping you were going to say.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Oh,
That's
yes.
incredible. With so like she'll have a U.S. Women's National Team.
Yes. And she'll
Players
walk out
standing
with one of the
behind
players on the field.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, I'm pretty psyched. So hopefully.
Over at Red Bull
Yeah.
or at MetLife.
No,
Okay, yeah,
Red Bull, Harrison. Against
Beautiful.
Mexico.
Wow.
Big one.
Shout out.
So yes, very excited about that. And did want to mention before we get into the interviews today, our condolences to the family of Taylor Tooley, who fought at UFC 1. Another member of the UFC 1 family. We lost Art Jimerson way too young just a few weeks ago, and Tooley, who's a legendary figure. Didn't go very far in the tournament, but the history of UFC 1 and the just like the visuals, the nostalgia, the legacy isn't the same without characters like him. So was sad to hear that, and our best to his family and his friends, and may he rest in peace. And it was very nice to see the UFC, who do a great job of this. Anytime, unfortunately, something like this happens, they did a great job of honoring him at the beginning of the broadcast on Saturday. So thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel, so please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.